everybody. Welcome to Frame Rate. It's where we rate frames. I'm Abe Epperson, one of your hosts today, and as always, I'm joined with my other host.
What dinosaur real good crew for life?
Oh yeah! Woo!
Yeah, and I'm
That's right.
the other one that's here as a guest. I'm Bridget. I didn't know if I introduced myself. Don't worry, I got myself, you guys.
Yeah. No, you're
Sure.
killing it.
That was an appropriate time.
I forgot. I forgot that this is the dinosaur crew.
That's
You forgot
what they call
D
us.
crew.
Oh, such a
You're never
such a
supposed to
pleasure.
let that slip your mind.
No.
That's you focus on that constantly. Forget your parents. Forget
everything else.
Let
duties.
everything else
Yeah.
fall. So yeah, if you were reading the the old description up there,
Mhm.
the movie we're talking about today is the 2016 Nocturnal Animals. The way that this typically works is we send to our guests a big list of movies that we want to see or talk about eventually, and then the guest picks it. And this time, Bridget picked it. Can you go into why you picked it, Bridget?
Yeah. That list is a tough list to pick from. Especially
Yeah, it is.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a solid list. But I remember watching this movie in theaters when it came out, and it haunted me for a while. And I've been meaning to rewatch it, but I never got around to it. So when I saw it, I was like, this seems like a good time to watch it again and talk about why it haunted me so much. Why it stuck around my. The first time I didn't really think about it that much, but like it stuck in my head a lot. I think
Do you
one.
mean various parts of it, or like the sequence? Because, and we're getting into spoiler territory as we always do now. The big abduction sequence. Because that's the one that seems to hit everyone, or did the whole thing stick with you?
I think the movie as a whole stuck with me. Like certainly that scene is something that stuck with me. Like I remember like very vividly. But I think the pacing, just like that back and forth between that and this like cool, quiet movie that happens also in the background, is just super jarring in a really interesting way.
I agree with almost all of that. Did you find that the second viewing, did it bring any new things to the fold? Did you go back on your previous position on it? Like, what did that yield?
Second viewing, still liked it. Think I was able to. I think the first viewing, I was a little maybe distracted by the way the story was being told. I guess I think I was kind of like not seeing the flashbacks that actually happened in real life part and contextualizing that. The things that I took away from the movie was the novel she's reading. So I think this time I was able to look at it knowing that was coming and being able to tie what she's reading to what actually happens in the real world together a little bit more.
May I logline it just structurally for folks that haven't heard it?
Yeah.
For people who need a quick refresher, and I won't do like a full synopsis like we would if this were structured, but just to remind people, or if they haven't seen it at all so they'll know what we're referencing, Nocturnal Animals is basically structured as a woman played by Amy Adams gets a manuscript in the mail from her ex-husband and reads it, and the story of the book she's reading is about half of the screen time, and about half of the screen time is her reading it and reacting to it in her life. Her life involves like her current marriage falling apart and stuff like that without getting into every detail, and the book involves Jake Gyllenhaal, her ex, undergoing this horrible trauma where sort of a surrogate, a wife and daughter, get abducted and horribly raped and killed. And he goes on a quest to track down the murderers. And then he eventually shoots himself in the belly and dies in the desert. And it's like, I don't mean to... Well, I guess I kind of do, because this was the big change for me watching it a second time. I'm the same as Bridget. I watched it once. in theaters and was like, whoa. And that's saying enough. That means the movie's done its job, right? The second time, I did feel it was much more melodramatic and the scenes showed more. Maybe it was because it was on the small screen. But in some ways, it boils down to a guy who got spurned by his ex writes a book that's so good and fucked up that she realizes her life is shit without him.
Oh, interesting. I didn't take that from it. Or I disagree with that. But that's an interpretation that I
got that vibe this time.
I got the vibe that he wrote something
that it's like, it's some emo shit. I mean, it's an emo movie.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily write a good book. It's not even out yet. He just slapped her in the face. That's all he did. So and that's all that matters for the film, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't mean good like the book is good or going to be a huge success in the universe of the film. I mean a book that is designed to wreck her, and indeed it does. And indeed to the point where she is like, can we hook up again? And he's like, yeah, meet me. And then he just stands her up.
That ending, that was another thing. The first time I saw it in theaters, that ending was was a killer. Just seeing Amy Adams alone in the restaurant.
It needed a final shot of Jake Gyllenhaal like in a Corvette driving into the sunset going, ha ha, whoa, I'm rad.
Yeah. Yeah, with like
man,
with Isla Fisher.
Yeah. Isla Fisher is like his new one
in the car.
And she's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, you have such a cynical read on it, both of you. Like
you haven't pitched tent yet, so go for it. What's your read, my friend? Content.
Well, I mean, no, it's the same reading, but I just think that it's like, to me, like, what's the dramatic argument of this movie? What is like what's the crux of it? What's its argument? What's its theme?
I thought it was, you aborted my child without telling me, so I'm gonna fuck your mind with my amazing
revenge
book. It's a revenge tale. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I saw it, I guess maybe I'm naive. I saw it as based off all the other characters in literally every scene. It is a revenge story because of the people involved, but that the movie is saying that everyone is vulnerable. Pain can come from anywhere. That's what I took from it. So to me, Jake Gyllenhaal riding off with sunglasses because he's so cool and he totally did her dirty, which I'm not going to disagree with. This movie is punishment. It's like Amy Adams is constantly the victim in this movie. She's victim of both her husbands, her mother, her own creation through like just, neglect of her own life, pride and whatnot. Like literally everyone else in the film is designed to harm her, which I have a lot of thoughts about that in general, about the responsibility of stories we tell. But if that is true, and I do believe that that's what the director is trying to say, almost in every scene, you can point to it and go, that's the metaphor right there.
Yeah, I agree.
To me, it's more passive in its dramatic argument. It's less that like revenge, like I guess it would be like revenge creates pain or something like that, or like people, maybe something along the lines of like people, when you pain someone, it's going to come back and get you or something like that. But I don't think it's that. I think it's just the vulnerability of everybody.
Sure.
Some people like Susan, who's the Amy Adams character, subscribes to this like draconian, opportunistic, like out for blood kind of posturing of self that I assume is to protect themselves from pain from anywhere. Like for example, like the second image of the film is the many gates and castle walls needed just to enter her home, for example. Right. Like that's like the second image we get in this movie. And I think that that's by design. The third image of the movie, by the way, is when Amy Adams goes to work and the book is introduced and she gets like a paper cut while opening it. Yeah. These are all like pretty obvious metaphors.
Pretty sweaty, man.
There are a couple like he's hitting stuff pretty hard on the nose here with the paper cut. I mean, at one point when we cut back to the real world, she's in her museum looking at a painting she bought that says revenge.
That just says revenge.
Yeah, there's a a deer at one point who's just been like blasted with arrows in a
prey.
even the
prey.
opening image of the film, which
Mind
was
prey.
very controversial.
I was gonna say you glossed right over the first image. You went
it's
for
because
2
I
and
think
3.
we're gonna address it. I mean, I guess there's a whole section of this podcast we're probably gonna be addressing things like this. The whole controversy about like the first image is patriotic, I guess, based off of like holding streamers and having flags behind them and hats that are all uniquely American. Obese women dancing in slow motion naked, completely nude. And that's how we introduce the movie. It's also how we introduce Susan, who this is revealed to be like a part of her, in her like I guess gallery. An artist has put this on, and we kind of leave that image with her sitting amongst them, as another part of the show is the same women laying down acting dead on like the ground in like, or on squares, I guess. The point is like the art, this is the art, and she is thoroughly like passionless.
She treats the art, which I think is an interesting, and that is what I got from it. Like, she calls it out as basically like Mr. Brainwash from Exit Through the Gift Shop. She's like, this art that I'm doing now is bullshit. It's just avant-garde stuff, copy and pasted together. And that is what it feels like, because you're like, why was this in the movie? And I think it's interesting that it's a symbol of empty symbolism. So unless Abe is going to blow our minds with the way that it, I feel like ties to the core themes.
Yeah, well,
No,
I
don't think so. Other than women being vulnerable. Once again.
Well, and then I have that a little bit because the movie has a lot to say about. I think one of the major themes of the movie too is vanity, and how her own, I guess what you could call vanity, leads to her downfall or this feeling of loneliness. Like she doesn't want to become her mother, played by Laura Linney, who's this incredibly vain woman who their scene together is basically just, you're going to become me. Everyone becomes their mother. Everyone becomes what they don't want to be. And sure enough, she leaves Jake Gyllenhaal's character
for vapid reasons.
Because Armie Hammer, being a handsome rich guy who
real bad pick in retrospect, Armie Hammer.
Yeah, I mean, art really great pick in retrospect. I couldn't decide, but it was weird seeing him on screen for sure as this kind of just like menacing, handsome, rich guy.
Handsome,
yeah, who like clearly we don't like. But and leaves sensitive writer Jake Gyllenhaal because he is not making enough money. So, and I think her art is especially that opening scene, the art she's picking, the exhibit that they're showing everybody, is a very like, look at these bodies, it's a very vain exhibit that ultimately doesn't say much.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the point, to show that she is stuck in a rut and looking for the passion she had in a previous relationship, someone who looked at her different and saw her as an artist, as opposed to someone who curates art and doesn't care about art actually anymore.
I watched this with Ganser because I was unwilling to watch the abduction scene alone again because I'm feeling fragile right now.
Sure.
And I think he had an apt point, which was that Edward, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, is super lucky that her life is hollow and depressing and her husband's cheating on her. Like, if he just happened to be wrong and things are really good between them at this moment, the book would have no effect,
Right.
So there's a way in which the universe is sort of built for it to unfold in the way it does.
Right. It's like everyone else in all the situations are designed to punish or harm Amy Adams. I think that's partially because of the thesis. I think the vulnerability, if your thesis is that, I feel like one of the stories that you can tell, or the story that this is one that actually does posture itself as a like revenge porn kind of fantasy.
Sure, but isn't that also just like any movie constructs that kind of thing around a character? I mean, this is a particularly brutal movie, but any movie or, thing where you have a main character, the world does construct itself to punish or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Give a set
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
obstacles to a character.
Right. And I guess that's maybe Michael hinted at, like I saw a little bit of the seams a little bit more. It's a movie's ability to work on us is it's usually the simpler the movie. It doesn't mean the thoughts can't be complex, but the simpler the movie,
Right.
the better, right? Because then you don't have to include a lot of necessary definitions in order to understand it. It's a very human message.
And this is very simple. The two threads themselves are exceedingly simple. Like her story is almost iconic, archetypal. Like rich couple, guy obviously cheating. She doesn't want to be her mother. Like they're told with just the minimalist of scenes that just suggest the trope. And then the story within a story sets itself up like it's going to be a mystery to unravel, but it really unfolds pretty like 1, 2, 3, the way a police investigation would go. It cuts and it's like a year later, like we don't know where the guy is. A year later, now we do know where the guy is. Like it's just how it goes.
Yeah.
The metaphorical story. The metaphorical story itself is not a good story. Imagine someone wrote a book. Like, imagine a Stephen King
I kept
book or
thinking
something.
that. I was like, oh,
it's not a good book.
Yeah, it's a pretty devastating book. It's just a book that leaves you being like,
it's simplistic.
Well, fuck. Yeah.
It's also the thing about it as a book that's interesting to me is I think it falls in if it were a book, and I wonder if this bleeds over into being a fault of the movie, but maybe it doesn't, is it's called Nocturnal Animals. He used to call her Nocturnal Animal, which I understand is what Abe's talking about, where the movie's trying to say, remember, he already underwent his pain, Edward. So it's not just her who's vulnerable. Everyone's vulnerable. So I get that. That's why he calls her a nocturnal animal. But in the book, the nocturnal animals are referring to these 3 horrible guys.
Yeah.
And I will just say I have less fear, and it feels less graceful, less tactful, less real when, like, the lead guy that they hate, Adam Stevens or whatever, he has like a generic douchebag name.
Quicksilver or whatever.
Yeah, he has no... I can't understand him at all. He's just like Jaws. You know what I mean? Like he just...
they're just monsters. I mean,
at one point he's just like, I like killing. You know?
And he goes like, if you call me a thief, I'll steal from you. If you say I'm a rapist, I'll rape you. You're like, hey, that's no way to navigate the world. Yeah, he can't do that. I know that's, but I know he's a psychopath, but I feel like he's pretty dimensionless as a psychopath compared to other psychopaths. That's all.
Yeah, that's I was thinking about that, like as a book, besides, like the purpose of that book, besides wanting to fuck with your ex, is just violence exists.
It's like a sad ass book.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, we don't see the prose or how it's written, so maybe he is a really good writer. Good. But outside of just like messing with your ex,
a Cormac McCarthy book is just like, and then they shot each other in the dirt, but it's written super good.
I'm reading
a book like that now, where it's just like, that's like all the Nick Adams or Ernest Hemingway tales. Like nothing really happens. It's just a guy sitting there at a campsite.
Well, stuff happens, but it's the stuff you'd expect. Like he says, I'm going to go to war soon. Then he does go to war and he gets his legs blown off. Like the stuff you think would happen. Yeah. All happens.
So it's all it really, can be basic.
It really relies on Jake Gyllenhaal's character being a phenomenal prose writer.
I'm glad we danced around this for so long, because the real purpose of this book is to get adapted to a film in this fictional universe.
Starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, to give fucking Michael Shannon a shot.
Oh my God.
At the Tommy Lee Jones role from No Country, because that's basically what he does in this. And
he's so good.
It's incredible.
He absolutely elevates the movie single-handedly.
I
think he
so
makes the movie
a
notch better than it would be otherwise. Yeah.
He is so damn good in this, and he doesn't have to be.
Yeah, he's it's perfect Michael Shannon too. It's like my preferred Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
Like, because there's many different versions of him. He's kind of a chameleon in some regards, but in mostly there's like one really good version of it, and this is the best version of it in my opinion.
Have you seen Take Shelter? I think that's my favorite. Michael
Oh,
Shannon.
yeah,
that one's pretty
amazing
that one's
depiction
pretty
of schizophrenia too, like
and
fairly realistic.
fairly realistic. I thought,
But yeah, the what was the man, the line that just always puts me over the top is what do you mean you have lung cancer? You smoke all the time. Yeah, that's how that works.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
It's so matter of fact, honest, and just gruff
And weird.
It's
And
perfect.
weird.
Yeah.
It's a very weird guy where you're just like, he's as menacing as
I know, and he's
anyone else in
always
that
like,
movie.
So you want to kill this piece of shit, or what do you want to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say is because you guys were rightfully pointing out that the novel inside it's even more confusing because the project originates as I think it's like Tom and Susan or whatever.
Yeah,
They
it's
changed
based
the
off
name
a
to
book.
Edward, but it's based on a book. But in the movie Nocturnal Animals,
Does the book have a book in it? Does
Yes,
the book have
it's the
framing
same
device?
story.
Yes,
It's
the book
just
is
boy.
the same story.
The book within the book is called Nocturnal Animals. The
That's
book
true of
itself
both,
is
yeah.
called Tom and Susan, I think, or Tony and Susan.
I think so. Something like that.
Jesus
Which I
Christ.
have not read, but that's just how movies are made. I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, I
so
think it's
you're
a
like,
pretty
Jesus.
faithful adaptation. They just
Yeah,
thought they were being
that's
clever
all-
with
No,
the
I
title.
it's just a story within a story adapted from a story within a
That's
story.
yeah.
It's just
what
complex.
I was pointing.
That's all.
That's all I was pointing. Yeah. But anyway, I actually think that just kind of going back a little bit in our conversation, the idea that these nocturnal animals being in the book, these three kind of hillbillies, I think it actually does because of the complexity of what we just pointed out. Keeping the simplicity, like keeping it real simple, is nice, and I think that there's something about these characters not being fairly one-dimensional because they're just supposed to be base. They're supposed to be, well, the metaphor I think of is with the Army Hammer arc, where it's like there's all this complexity about their relationship, how they talk to each other. There's all these different things you can unpack when you watch them communicate and discuss on screen. There's the whole phone call thing where she, which I thought was really eloquently done by the director, or like the movie did it, because like it respected my intelligence. I didn't need the writer to say, is there someone there right now? Are you cheating on me? It's just like she noticed the number, and I'm like, that must mean that she knows
31,
because
madam.
her expression changed.
Well, she overheard, but point of order, and I'm not saying it's good that he's cheating on her, and it's fine that he gets caught, but what kind of bellboy at like a upper class Manhattan hotel doesn't know to just say 31? You don't blow up executive spots.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that bellboy's getting fired.
Maybe that's Tom Ford speaking all the idiosyncrasies of bellboys.
This is the one heroic bellboy.
I mean, he knows
Your wife
more.
should know.
Yeah, who knows? But my point is that because there's all this confusion and kind of complexity around their marriage, it all just boils down to he's cheating on me. It's very base. All of the like sins, quote unquote, in this movie are very base. It's in the book, it's someone all the stakes are higher. Is all someone raped and murdered this person.
You aborted my child.
So what do? We go back and kill them. In the movie, it's just one less line removed. It's like trying. That's why I keep coming back to everyone is vulnerable.
Well, and
because it's trying to say
because to make everyone vulnerable, they do write arounds as simple as, well, he has lung cancer, so even the menacing Michael Shannon guy is vulnerable.
Well,
it's exact swings.
Yeah. I also think there's and you keep going back to that. I keep going back to like I mean, I guess it's a little bit of the vanity, but also things playing out the exact way you think they're going to. Because even if you look at Susan's life, her mother called it, how that was going to play out.
It's dread versus tension, for sure.
Yeah, everyone has landed in the spot that anybody could have predicted. She is, like her mother in a wealthy but like probably unhappy life. And she left one that, might have been a little more exciting, but she couldn't handle it because she needed a certain level of comfort. And then, everything is kind of playing out exactly how you thought. It's just people dealing with the consequences of that.
Right, right. Like most notably in the with the hillbillies, they laugh and say, "quote like there goes your cops" while clapping and like hooting and stuff. Like they have power just by existence, and I
They're
guess
almost
that's
funny games esque. Yeah.
it's Looney Tunes in a way, yeah. Because like not in just in terms of like how base and cartoonish they are,
Right.
like
They're
are,
like hyenas.
yeah, and so they can avoid any social mores, but they're the thing is power is all that matters. So that's why I think they're doing that, because they're saying like, yeah, in this elite society, everyone builds up these structures that like try to protect themselves, but no one can, no one's pride and everyone's vanity and assuming that they can be protected, like feeling that they're more powerful than they are, it's not gonna work out for you, because power is power. Your thoughts on power aren't power.
Right. And that's kind of, you get a feeling that that's part of the reason that the three nocturnal animals, I guess we're calling them, choose to mess with this family is simply because, he says it all the time, that he just assumes that Jake Gyllenhaal's character thinks he's better than them.
Right, and he's always like,
right,
what's wrong, man? What did I say? I didn't even say that. Or like, what's going on, man?
Right, yeah. There's like an assumption that they have more status than them, and that's part of the reason they're fucking with them. Is because
and he's not wrong, because a corrupt cop helps him track them down and murder them extra legally.
Yeah,
right.
No one is wrong in this movie. Like
he's like, wait a minute, you're a lawman. We got to go to jail and shit. And he's like, we're not doing that.
Like, he didn't even read my rights. He was like, yeah, you heard me, right?
Yeah.
You heard me read his rights. It's just like, Jesus. They don't care, even though this guy is an insufferable.
Well, you want him to
and
die,
we know he did it, but we have the dramatic irony situation.
I know you did it. Sorry,
I know you did
I love
it.
doing that West Texas accent, but we shouldn't. It's probably condescending.
It's a cool accent. That's at least true.
It is a cool accent. It doesn't sound.
Accent.
It does not sound right coming out of Jake Gyllenhaal's mouth.
There's
Oh yeah, but I had a really satisfying moment, because I think Gyllenhaal's one of the greats.
Yeah.
And Ganser's, we always disagree about everything. So I watched this with Adam, and he's like, I strongly disagree. I think he's very thoroughly middle of the road. And then it got to the part where he goes, where Michael Shannon goes, they got raped and killed, but there's some fingerprints, so it's promising.
Promising,
and he goes,
yeah.
Promising. And Adam turned to me and went, I was wrong. He's great. And I'm like, damn right. That's such a good delivery.
That scene, that promising scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't even finish the word the first time it's said.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, oh, fuck. Just watch Prisoners, man. He's so good in Prisoners. There's something where we kind of, I didn't want to lose, because I know you guys have thoughts on this, that I just wanted to segue the conversation a little bit about the elitism, or like the reason that the nocturnal animals like there's this truth that we all found, that there's like, oh, there's a dichotomy, a split between these two types of Americas or whatever. There's two things that I thought were weird to me in this movie. I don't know if you guys picked it up too. There's like something that bothered me was Tom Ford seemingly insists in this movie that the concept of rich people having feelings too is like on the same emotional playing field as something like pain can come from anywhere, or art is beautiful but not tangible or useful, or like there's all these thoughts in this movie, and it's also just like rich people have feelings too is also there. And I just thought that was really funny. It was like, because for people who don't know, Tom Ford, he's a very rich guy, because he's a fashion designer and a movie director. He's famous. Yeah. He was known first off by making Gucci bags like a thing in the 90s. Yeah. Through his ad campaigns, and like he became the ad campaign
literally
for Gucci.
The thing that the word now just means rich stuff, Gucci.
Yeah, exactly. And he's he's perhaps known as like the most Like all of the it's usually a sense of pride at the Oscars that actors are wearing Tom Ford suits and whatnot. So anyway, he's in.
Childish
that's why
Gambino likes to mention him in his raps, stuff like that.
Stuff like that. So that's also why he had access to all these huge homes and stuff, because every place you go looks like it's came out of Ex Machina.
Looks like Invisible Man's gonna be there.
Right, the future's here.
I mean, there are Damien Hirst paintings throughout the movie.
There's a Jeff Koons by the pool, one of the most highly paid artists there is. Yeah, I'm sure they just rented it, but whatever.
But like the fact that he has access to those paintings is
laughable.
Yeah,
at the very least. So I thought that given all of that a great double feature with this movie, because this is all there's a lot of truth in it. We kind of won over it kind of, I think. There's a lot of movie about how there's a lot of aspects about how this movie is about personal pain, right? And the ways in which it's manifested, the way in which we do it to ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. The movie that I keep thinking about that is exactly like this, but way better because it's about systemic pain and revenge and such is so we should watch Nocturnal Animals and Parasite. Also, the pacing is very similar. Yeah. The way that the two stories are kind of told.
And the emotional distance of the narrator is the same.
Yeah. And the ending, so to me, I don't know. It's a very Parasite-like movie, except for the fact that it's about two rich people doing it to each other, as opposed to rich people in general doing it to the lower classes. I don't know. I just thought
Nocturnal Animals, she fucks him over because he's not rich enough, but in his book, even poorer people ruin everything. So it also is playing the same game.
Yeah. That is. I didn't think about watching it with Parasite. That is an interesting point, but I also think I know, so because it's because it's a Tom Ford movie. I also think so much of this movie is about style. So much of its appeal is tone and style. It's a very quiet movie, but it's also a very cool movie. I think Amy Adams probably all in all has maybe a page of dialogue.
Right.
Maybe
very low dialogue. I like that.
She is a great I love that she kills it in this movie, and all she does is reads dramatically. She made reading look like an interesting thing.
Right.
I keep going back to this theme of vanity and how this movie shows that, because also the way there's a lot of really beautiful shots of naked people in this movie. Mm-hmm. And I that is something and unnecessary, but it's.
I was gonna say the opening bit. It goes on long enough that eventually I find myself thinking this is actually fairly empowering. Good for these.
Yeah,
wow, these are brave
they seem
actors.
To be enjoying themselves.
Yeah. It goes. Yeah. At first you're what's this surreal image, and then it becomes this is kind of fun.
They're having a good time, and then they show. I mean, there are hot people all throughout this movie, but she calls the daughter and she's naked in bed for some reason. But it's a really nice shot, and the shower shots of Jake Gyllenhaal then going to Amy Adams. Everything is
thought the shot of the daughter in bed with her lover's outline barely eclipsing hers from behind was to make them look like the bundled dead bodies from the book. Just like when he takes a bath in the book, it cuts to her in the bath. Right. But I would argue that those gestures are more style than substance. I don't know that it has a lot of meaning to compare those images. It was just transitional stuff.
I definitely agree. I do think that the metaphor it originally is based on is good. For example, Amy Adams played the dead body in the novel. That metaphor I think is fairly strong.
Oh, she played the dead body?
She played the dead body.
Fisher plays the living wife.
I must have missed that. I think
because they look so similar. Yeah,
great piece of stunt casting. Amazing piece of stunt casting.
Yeah, exactly.
Which 100% worked.
Steve Buscemi's the daughter's body,
which is strange. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Tom Ford trying to say something and not being clear. I don't think, and that's all we need to know about that.
It sounds like we all got stuff out of the movie, and it does have a lot of style and vibe. But something I feel like I haven't said, or the last big leg, is like, I just think this movie's all right on the script level. I think
he's not the strongest script guy.
Line to line, there's a lot of exposition like, you're like this. Well, I'm just feeling exactly this way. I know you always feel that way. You should do this next. Like, the kind of scenes that become dry, and yet the structure almost saves it because they're trying to cram in 2 stories worth of beats into a movie length. So it has to be arch and dry, so you forgive it. But there's just, I don't know. I really did find it, especially the second time, to show the soap seams a little more where you're like, even the best drama ever made still hits on, like, if you describe it in a sentence, it's usually like, well, someone's cheating on someone else, so she gets an abortion. And, like, we always circle around the same stuff, or someone brings a gun and then a bunch of other stuff happens. Like, there's only so many things. So even though this movie can be described as like, well, her husband's cheating on her, she has a hollow marriage, she got an abortion without telling him, and it sounds really dishy. There's an art to like obscuring it and making it feel like high art. And I just felt like I could feel Tom Ford lifting. I could feel the effort of like, look at my art. It's really artistic. A little bit. It tries a little hard.
I agree. That's actually one of the main reasons I wanted to rewatch this movie, because when I walked out of the theater, and I was having a hard time articulating this in the beginning, but now I'm able to wrap my head around it. When I walked out of the theater, I was definitely struck by the movie, and it like those especially those dramatic scenes, like the abduction, the final scene, those strange out of place seeming beginning. It felt like there was, it stuck in my head, and it felt like there was a lot to chew on, but I was having trouble extracting anything out of like the symbolism that seemed interesting. I mean, they're like, or that mind-blowing or unique. And that's why I wanted to rewatch it, because I was like, did I miss something about this? And I don't think I did. I think I was able just to appreciate the story for what it is more. Now not being like as swept up in the illusion of it all. I still think it's a pretty good movie, but yeah, it definitely is one that leans on Tom Ford's sense of style.
I just think it's interesting how much of a magic trick when you really do pull that off. Like, I know there's a handful of movies I reference constantly because they're some of the best, but like the difference in feeling, and it's not that big, between something like this and how I leave going, yeah, man, it was artistic. You can lay off though. It was very artistic. Yeah. Good job. And then like a Punch Drunk Love, where I'm like, you are art. Or like there seems to be nothing forced or sweaty about it. You just exude artistic expression of a sophisticated caliber. And
I would also say
amazing when people can do that.
Oh yeah, that's why they're great. Yeah, and this is good. I don't want to say, because there's no line that is like, that's bad line, because obviously
there's nothing bad about this
even
movie.
A mediocre film would do that. This is not me trying to offend it. I agree with you guys entirely. Another thing I want to point out is that in its like all the sweatiness that you're mentioning, which I agree with, there's something to be said about, there's a lot of respecting of the intelligence, and I think that like a movie like Punch Drunk Love does that as well. There are like what I guess I would characterize this writing, the screenplay as, is that there is quite a bit of understanding of what good art looks like, but maybe not the virtuoso ability to pull it off. Like it's too many asks. It's very hard to do.
It's hard to do. About. Yeah, I think we see I think this is a solid effort. It's a B plus, but like it doesn't have
it
doesn't have the mastery of like storytelling, I guess, to take it over
his
the
second
edge.
Film.
Yeah.
I'm eager to see what he does.
I still think he's a good filmmaker. I still think there are things I really appreciate about this movie, and it's again like it's very confident in its sense of style, which is not something to scoff at. The themes are pretty clear, and like you've been saying, Abe, it trusts its audience, which a lot of movies from first or second time directors wouldn't have the confidence to do. And maybe it's a testament to how good the actors are in this movie.
I think the performances all around elevate the screenplay and hide a lot of the work.
Look at all of I mean
this is a heavy hitter cast. Yeah, heavy hitter cast, and they all do an incredible job, which elevates the movie. And it is still also somewhat of a testament, even though most of these people have never been bad in anything, but it's still a testament to Tom Ford and his directing.
I think so, and he's got stylistically. And trust me, like being a director, I always try to, like a director, like the director that I am, I always try to look at the craftsmanship of it under such a lens that it's like, you have to do a lot to impress me. And there's something about this like rich dude coming. I know it's like just a narrative that I tell myself, this rich dude who has all the toys and all of the actors and like, just coming in and like doing like whatever they want, and like so part of me always is going like, nah, they fucked that up. That this is all style
or whatever.
Yeah, and I want to hate it, but like every time I'll be watching just the dinner scene between the flirtation process between Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal in the flashback. Yeah, and I'm like, these are excellent shot choices for this story, like it, because he shoots them exactly like how the other person is seeing them, which is like they're in a catalog. Like this guy Tom Ford knows how to shoot a catalog. So he pulls it off. He knows the angles of their face, he knows the most flattering way to shoot them.
And he knows how to make people look good. Like I
he really does. And he's got these wonderful spaces to work in. So I don't want to lick the boots at all, because I just hate that he has everything. And now he's like, oh, and by the way, I want to become a director. And it's like, well, hello. Also, there's a bunch of directors who don't have money.
I heard he's DJing now. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also have thoughts.
What else did he direct? I know it's
a
only
single man.
A serious man.
A single man.
A single man. Serious man.
I keep getting that in my head. I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah, it's a Coen Brothers
I said
movie.
That's twice. That's twice I've fucked that up. Yeah, Single Man.
A Single Man. Okay.
Which is also very good, and Colin Firth is very good in it.
Yeah.
That's kind of my approach to him with style.
And
it's like, of course your style is great.
I would say it's also sleeper, like it's not effects driven, so it's not one you immediately think of this, but it's sneakily really good on the big screen if you like the experience of dread and tragedy. I mean, and I'm just saying a lot of these rough edges only appeared to me the second time on a small screen. On the big screen, it's like blowing trauma so hard in your face that you don't really notice.
I was also this is like kind of another reason why I want to go back and watch this movie, and something I was a little like, yeah, it's what I thought is it seems like there should have been a bigger critique of the art world than exists in the movie.
It seems. Speaking of Gyllenhaal's, did you see Velvet Buzzsaw?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
okay.
More
if you need
explicit.
that itch scratched, yeah.
I actually kind of disagree. Just in that I think that's once again the movie respecting your intelligence by not telling you what to think about high art. For example, I referenced it before, the deer with all the arrows in it displayed in the glass case. Like that is so stupid. That's not good art. It's presented as high art in the film and something that she's considering buying or already has. Point is, I think that's stupid, and I like that the movie is like, yeah, I'm going to give you images that are going to make you think that's really high art. But whether or not you think that that's good or bad is up to you. I think the movie is trying to say this is all bullshit. But I like that it doesn't
revenge
force your
painting
hand.
feels like pretty bullshit, but it's interesting. It's like the movie uses obvious iconography, but it doesn't tip the iconography. But it also does a little bit, and I'm only thinking of the time when like there's that dinner where blue blazer guy says, oh, the show was so great, and she goes, no, all the art is junk. So the movie doesn't shy away from telling you that the art is junk. I mean, it literally says it.
Yeah, I was more talking about exactly that opening scene with
that guy,
the character Michael Sheen, and I think it's Melanie. What's her face?
That's right.
Yeah.
Melanie, what's her face? That's it.
Yeah, the British lady who pops up in like every indie rom-com you've ever seen.
Trying to see.
This is gonna kill me. Linsky? I think that's her.
No, I don't know. I keep thinking Jenna Malone, but that's her coworker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. That is. Yeah. Maybe
Am I the only one that feels the tension of keeping the podcast interesting?
No. Maybe.
Andrea Riseborough.
Okay, not who I thought.
Alyssa Holt, Carlos's wife.
Okay. Then not who I thought. Different person.
Yeah.
But
she's also very good.
She's very good. That relationship, like those are the only people she talks to in the movie in a real way,
like a real capacity. Yeah, exactly.
They're just like, to me there seemed to be something more to get out of those characters, and maybe I'm just trying to read too deep into this movie.
No, that's one of the seams, is that we don't see that character again, because that makes it apparent that character was only there to be a sounding board for exposition. So that's what makes it clunkier, is that, that was an interesting character. Oh, they're gone forever. Oh, they were just there for exposition. That's how your brain
I like the
it.
observation that her obvious point is that her friends aren't really her friends. Not in that they mean her harm, but they're just not useful. Just like the art, like there's a shot of her where she's making the same pose as the art that's behind her. And I'm like, yeah, she's as useful as that art in that moment. She gave Susan no help. That's why she tried to go there, and she's just, like you were saying, like basically she's vain like everyone else. But so it is saying that's, I think it's doing that consistency. It's not as explicit as like Big Lebowski with her. It's like okay, lastima. It's not like we're saying they are completely foreign to whatever the dude thinks real life is. That's not the observation. The observation here is very much they're useless. She sees them as useless, so they're dropped from the movie. That's all they needed.
It's the treatment of rich society as like purple blazer guy even says, I'm sorry, I don't know the actor's name, but I'm not going to slow down to look into it.
It's Michael Sheen.
Thanks.
Come on, you know Michael.
Isn't that a
singer?
know
who that is.
He says,
you're thinking Ed Sheeran?
Ed Sheeran. Yeah, I'm thinking of Ed Sheeran. He says our world is easier. Like, the movie consistently treats rich people world as a separate universe that is hollow but privileged, like posh and soft.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they also, I mean, I think this is what trips me up of like them being disposable, because we get backstory on them. We get that, like, they have a whole conversation of like, how does your marriage work? And it's like, how does that work for you? And they're like, because Michael Sheen is gay and is out, and he knows that, and his wife knows that, and that's just
it's all done very quickly.
It's all done very quickly, and I'm like, is there not more to say on this? Seems to be a weird dynamic.
I don't think so.
What's
like,
it like
shows
being
they
a
are
beard
people.
for that guy? It's fine. I gotta go. I'm out of the movie.
A beard for that guy who is out.
Yeah.
Who's an out?
So I guess not a beard. So
yeah.
The space on your face where a beard used to be.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think that they're that show, like, I like that they're real people and they're not archetypes, but they're also still not helpful. They are in their own head, and they're like, Susan's clearly asking for a very specific thing, and she's just refuses, like, oh, but you have to do what the society, our society, the high society, the elite would not have you. You should stay with Army Hammer. You should do that. You should not show any
I mean, maybe
vulnerability whatsoever. It's like, this is super not the therapy she needs right now.
Right. I mean, she's trying to figure out she tried two different versions. We don't know that at this point, but like maybe it's that, she's tried two different versions of her life. One where like her high society mother doesn't approve, and one where she very much would approve and is happy in neither. So then as someone who does seem happy within the system, within this high society system, but is still somehow bucking tradition, but in a what would read to me as toxic way. I don't know. It feels weird that it's so glossed over or not examined, because I think there's something interesting there, but we don't.
Yeah, I think so.
And I don't know where it would fit in the movie. It's not about this movie. It's just a weird like thing to throw at us and then never address. That I can fit. Shit. Yeah.
But I totally get what you're saying, because it's it doesn't. Where else do you put it in the movie? But also, it's like, why offer it if it's like so interesting?
That's why if the movie were a 10 of elegance, it wouldn't make the offer in the first place. You know what offers not to make if you're not going to back them up, in my opinion. And that's one of the things that brings it from like a 10 to a 7, but it's still a strong 7.5. You know?
Yeah.
And for pure emotional effect of movies as emotion machines, it really made me feel strong emotion, especially the first ride through.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's. Yeah, I think that's like why I was so drawn to watch it again, because I was like, there's something really, really interesting here, and it's clearly very well done, but I felt like I was missing something, and I think what I realized on the second viewing, what I'm missing is just things that the movie itself are missing, and that's just digging a little deeper into itself. Which it doesn't do, or when it does, it shies away from it.
Depth is a definite problem with this movie, in that, like, even the metaphors themselves, which we were all kind of, singing its praises for its simplicity, doesn't add new conversations. I don't think that Tom Ford will have any new relevant revelations for like what revenge is, nor do I think that any director or storyteller these days does
at this point.
But there's honest truths, and he shows, and the novelist shows, if this is a truthful adaptation, fairly top level stuff, just done in a very eloquent way.
Well,
it feels like Gone Girl in a way, where you're like, it's strongly done drama with 3 feet of depth instead of 6 feet of depth.
Yeah, I mean, I think like something that just like pops out at me that I remember when I was like in middle school or whatever, learning about what a theme of a story is. It was always told to us that like it's not a one word thing. It's, you think of it as like a fortune cookie kind of sentence. Like revenge is fill in the blank with whatever the author wants it to be, where in this movie it's just the theme is just revenge or unhappiness or vanity. There's no like there's no expounding on the theme. It just presents the theme, and I think a stronger movie has a point of view on it instead of just showing it to us. But it shows it to us in a really cool, interesting, great looking way that is acted very strongly. But I think ultimately, that is the thing.
That's surface value.
That this could have been a great movie if it had more to say.
And I think you're absolutely right about that, because it kind of like another thing that I thought was weird in this movie was also kind of along the same like lines of how he positions rich people in his movies. There's these sequential breaks where we see these images of sunsets and deserts that like they are classically picturesque in a way that is like a classic painting or like a Baroque kind of style version of landscape. And it's kind of, I think, being done to slam home the idea that art is not real, life is real. it kind of positions its theme in like what does art matter when you just have someone who's like, I'm gonna kill you and I have a gun, you know, like
right.
it
But what's
doesn't matter.
funny is within the story, that's also art because it's a book. So he's saying
It is a book,
art
yeah.
isn't real. My art that I made up is real.
Yeah.
Well, it's just because art, the whole idea is art tries to take real things and makes little archetypes
Right.
of them.
Yeah.
I see what he's going for, but it's not very relevant. Ford is at his best when he's talking about everybody, not just commentary for the elite or artists by the elite for the elite. Like that's another one of the problems that I find in this is that it's like elitism by elitists.
Yeah.
Even if it's an elitist that wants to not be
For
one and feels that he has like roots in like being real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
It's
Fisher
still,
Spooner
like, very
track.
strange.
yeah. deep cut for like 4 people. But I got it,
That's
so
a
I
good
feel
joke.
special.
No, it's UCSD.
Yeah, I think as you're saying that, I was thinking that I think there is kind of a case of the artist, and I mean certainly the artist not being able to separate themselves from the art, which is interesting because that is also something Amy Adams says to Jake Gyllenhaal when we see a flashback of them together of like, can you not write about yourself? And he does say everybody
It's a silly
writes about
proposition.
himself. But that is not exactly the point I was making in that like it's hard to escape. This is a Tom Ford movie, and I think that's why I was expecting these commentaries about the art world or high society that
Right.
didn't really cut that deep because I was like, okay, you've made a movie about the world that you exist in real life. What are you saying about it? And I think I kept searching for that, but there's not much there. So there was some like, all right, maybe I just got to take this as not a Tom Ford movie, even though, you know.
That's what I'm saying is even though it's not a superhero movie or an action movie, I think it's a one-shot emotional roller coaster ride. And that's like its main value.
Yeah.
I recommend if people
that's-
haven't seen it, they rush out and watch it once and then let it be as good as it is in their memory.
Sure.
Because it'll stick with you. But if you look closer, you'll
Yeah.
It's
have
got
minor
some
gripes like us.
fantastic some fantastic tricks that they play, especially with the editing. The editing in this movie is impeccable.
Great.
It's such a it's accosting. It surprises you. It forces you to pay attention. It's all the things that you'd expect out of good editing.
Yeah. And nothing jars you, but like it does emotionally, but nothing like physically. And it's it's a really well-made movie. I can't say that enough. Like it looks beautiful. Right. It is so confidently and competently made. The acting is phenomenal. Yeah, but I think that's why, like, ultimately it didn't have this huge run on, like, an award circuit, is because it didn't have that deeper element. But, like, it is still a really good movie that sticks with you. Like, the scenes that are supposed to hit you and stay with you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think in the controversy over this film, of, you know, not just about the first sequence, but also about several critics pointed out it's like this is revenge porn. Jake Gyllenhaal's character is unapproachable because he's so off screen. Like the real
Edward doesn't actually exist in the film.
Edward doesn't exist, so you can't scrutinize his actions. Was he a part of the destruction of the relationship? Is this a biased point of view? Because if he gets to like lob these metaphors that seem perfect because they're in this world that created by his book, are we supposed to believe that like he is had no fault there because that's how it's presented?
Well, I think
although he does see himself clearly as a failure in the story. He gets berated time and time again by Michael Shannon saying like, why didn't you go to her? And he's like, I don't know. Like he clearly isn't not lobbing like, you know, insults at himself, but it does make it seem like, because once again hinting at the controversy.
No, because the climax of that arc is him screaming, I should have stopped it, I should have stopped it, I should have stopped it. And what that's a metaphor for real Edward is stopping the abortion. And that is a self-serving artistic choice from fictional Edward's point of view, in the sense that screaming, I should have stopped it about your family getting raped and murdered, completely defensible. Screaming, I should have stopped it, I should have forced my ex to have my child. That's a much more complicated issue.
Yeah.
You can't compare those two situations.
Exactly.
I also,
that's a better way of saying it.
I also think how the book is written is the only insight, because we know that Edward, obviously, he named this character Tony, but in Amy Adams' head, she cast him as himself.
He's like, no, I don't know. That's Tony.
No,
This is a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It was a fiction.
But yeah,
we don't know.
But
we don't know if he even ghosted her or it was like a absent-minded. Like, we don't even know.
He got a flat tire.
We can put it together.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he said for Susan and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but,
it was pointed.
The point is, it doesn't say.
It doesn't. Well, yeah.
We can just infer.
But what we do know from that flashback of Amy Adams saying you shouldn't write about yourself so much, that he does have this tendency to put himself in the story. So with the information we have, it seems like the only insight we get into how that character sees himself is what's in the book. And then everything else is from the point of view of Amy Adams. So she obviously has some guilt about what she did, and is casting herself as the villain of, the whatever reality actually happened, without putting fault, because she now misses him and wants to be with him again. So I don't think we get a fair view of that relationship ever, which is clearly a very complicated relationship, but clearly Edward/Tony is pointing out his own flaws as, I mean, I think Laura Linney's character, her mother even says, like, he's not strong, he's not brave. And I think that's his kind of...
I love that she says that. She says, I know that because when his father died, he was a sad.
That was rough.
Just like a little bitch.
He was a little mopey bitch when his dad died.
Yeah, at 15 or whatever. It's kind of hard to take that on its face, because I'm like, yeah, she's just a huge bitch. Like, of course, a 15-year-old wasn't cool when his dad died. But that is, I guess, what he hears about himself, and, like, to some extent clearly thinks about himself as, like, some sort of a coward.
He's a sensei.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's
not,
and I think that's, like, the flaw we're getting, but that's not really enough of a flaw. But it's hard to judge because we're seeing this from the point of view of Amy Adams, who is at a point in her life where she misses him, so she's seeing him again through these rose-colored glasses of, like, no, he's just a sensitive guy. He's not that bad. He's not a guy who would have forced me to have a child or whatever. We don't get that part of the story because she's not in a part of her life where she wants to face that or is thinking about that.
Right. And she's kind of become a shark because of all of these things, like because of her mother and because of what she quote unquote wants, which she then goes back on. But you do believe, just like most people make decisions in life, at some point or another, you did believe that you wanted this. So the movie's got some female representation problems that I think was definitely spurned by the controversy of, like, for example, it was lauded mostly by critics everywhere, talking about the direction or even best film, supporting actor with Michael Shannon, all that, editing, all these things that we've noticed. People were lauding it for that, but there was definitely a lot of kind of more independent, like, for example, the women films critics circle gave worst female image in a movie to the obese naked women dancing, and I'm like, that's really fair. And so that kind of started a buzz. They also had an award.
I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did, because it's fair. It really made it.
It's
I didn't know that was a thing.
The same. They also make up this particular awards. They have whole categories for things that don't exist.
I think that's really great, because that's a tough category. every year. That's
They have one called the Mommy Dearest Worst Screen Mom of the Year Award, which actually this movie won for Laura Linney.
Nice, yeah.
So that's,
she's pretty bad.
That's really funny and a good way to deal with that, because this film, in essence, is just a crime and punishment for Amy Adams' character.
Yeah.
Susan is just berated, and all of the female kind of representations in this movie are not the most positive.
No.
Nor the men, like everyone's no one gets unscathed. And also, so I'll say that there's an equality of that, but it was just a notice for people who haven't seen. If you do go and watch, just know that everyone is kind of a goblin, and they kind of get their just deserves, except for the off-screen Jake Gyllenhaal.
And except for the women who do not deserve to get.
I was gonna say, like, if sexual assault is a trigger for you, and you feel like I feel, which is that most of the time, if you're going to put a rape in your film, you better have something truly profound to say on the subject to justify bringing it up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this movie actually crosses that hurdle, but it saves itself by making it off screen and just referenced in dialogues, which is very helpful.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
it's good to know going in.
Yeah. Like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I question whether we needed to see the rape.
Yeah.
I question whether it's additive. And if they had shown the rapes, I don't think I'd even recommend seeing this movie, because I don't think it pulls enough meaning along with it.
I agree
to
with
justify that.
Yeah.
But the fact that you just see bodies, you're like, okay. Skate by on that.
I agree with that.
I mean, Law and Order SVU gets away with that. So.
Yeah, no, there would be no justification to showing it. I would argue also when Michael Shannon says, "Do you want to know what happened to them?" He didn't.
I was like, that's a little much. Cop wouldn't do that.
And I also think it could have been, because the movie's so good at being simple. It could have just been, we know what happened. There could have been like just a nod, or he could have said no, or like just like, it's what you think. Like we didn't have to do that scene.
Or he could have just said your daughter had a worse time of it. End
the sentence.
Yeah,
he didn't have to.
End.
He didn't have to go into it, and then it like forces us in this weird position where I thought the reaction of Jake Gyllenhaal when he hears what happens to his daughter, who like was suffocated and beat and raped, and then like he has to react to all of them and has like the worst reaction to, like, has a significantly worse reaction to rape because it's awful. I'm just like, what? We then put a point system on like strangulation and beating.
Right.
Like that whole scene.
And he's like, and here comes the trauma topper. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. And
are you ready to act even harder, Jake Gyllenhaal? Yeah. Here comes your stimulus.
Yeah. And that whole, that struck me in a very like strange way, where it's like, all right, we're showing.
Well, there were two other moments where even artistically, I would say, even from a style perspective, Ford kind of tips too hard and it becomes cheesy. Like, one is when they do show the strangulation, they just show it in a dream sequence with a really mobile camera, like Bourne Identity. So it's just like hands flailing, and it's a dream that Jake Gyllenhaal's having. And then the other time is when she's looking. Amy Adams is looking at her friend's cell phone app that shows the baby. Yeah, it's like a nursery cam, and one of the dudes, one of the evil hillbilly dudes, leans into frame like a jump scare. Yeah, that just shouldn't be in the movie.
Yeah, that was really that was strange. It scared me, so it worked. I'm a very
it did, but I don't like that because it's not a movie about her. It is about the deterioration of herself a little bit, but not in that way.
No, she's not going crazy. Yeah. But they still, like that.
She's not losing her grip on reality.
Yeah, that is maybe the another kind of like knock against its portrayal of women is that like she's going through a rough time, so she's immediately breaking with reality. It's not great. It's not. Yeah. So they're definitely. Yeah, it uses
inexcusable because that could be you don't know if they would say that if it was a man too, but like it's still it looks how it looks. It looks how it looks.
Yeah. They're it doesn't. I don't think it's I don't know. It's certainly not the worst depiction of trauma to women we have in movies, but it certainly wasn't treated with as much care as it should have been.
No, yeah,
and-
that would go to Handmaid's Tale, I think, right now.
Yeah.
That's very the brutality.
Yeah.
of that. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, almost no movie does it well or should. I mean, very few. I can't really think. None come to mind where I'm like, that was probably right. And I'm not someone who should be speaking on what is right or not right. But
but no movie comes
Right.
to mind when I think, what's a rape scene where they showed it and you're like, they had to show it, showing it was crucial to the story, or it wouldn't have had the same meaning. And I'm like,
the accused,
nothing really comes to mind.
the accused,
No.
maybe, but it's still awful. It's
No.
still awful.
Not even Irreversible, not even Straw Dogs. No.
Yeah.
It could have been built in the same way without, yeah.
I know that those storytellers would be like, but it makes the stakes higher. It's like, we can get the stakes. We kind of get the stakes. You know?
Yeah, it's accessible.
Yeah, I think they
Unfortunately.
were like, well, we're being sensitive by not showing it. And it was like, you're still not thinking about how
Right,
it plays
even in
in your
this case.
story. Is it playing as a plot device or as something?
Or it's just
Yeah.
a stakes
Shock. Is
raiser.
it just
I
for
don't think we
shock?
like it when it just raises the stakes generally.
Yeah.
That's, even if it's done in a less derogatory way, I guess, or more
Right.
forcing people to confront
Or when
it
you
way.
don't,
it's
when you don't
still
confront it, it's
Yeah.
like Tasha
a loaded
Yar effect,
situation.
where you
Yeah.
have no consequences later in life.
Well,
There's
and
so many
also
ways
we're
to fuck
supposed
this
to.
up.
I think the movie operates on the assumption that the book is. I mean, we talked about this earlier, but I think it does have to operate on the assumption that the book is good. I mean, she writes his email saying that like it's devastating and beautiful, and that
You're
like
right.
we're
Yeah.
that it's like, you know, at least an affecting book.
Mhm.
So it doesn't really say anything about this male novelist's treatment of her,
Mhm.
because that's ultimately who quote unquote wrote the story. So they're just like, yeah, this is fine. This didn't actually happen to me, but it's dedicated to me.
Mhm.
And the woman is still called Susan in the book. Am I right
It's
about that?
basically Cat Person,
Yes.
the movie,
Yeah.
in some weird way.
Yeah.
No? Crickets? All right. Well, we've talked
Oh,
about
it's
Michael
Laura.
Shannon, and we've
Yeah.
talked about sexual assault.
What else? What else
Don't
is
read
there?
into that. I'm saying we may have forded the stream on this one. What do you think?
Hey. I think so.
Yeah.
I don't really have much else to say.
I'm scraping
Other
the bottom
than
of my
with
pun barrel.
everything that was said, especially near the end here, where I think, put it in good context. I think the movie's well made, and if you aren't bothered by a lot of this stuff, you'll probably like it.
Yeah. It's worth a watch.
Yeah.
If you like intensely
Right.
horrific shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a powerful film for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not a perfect movie or like an outstanding one, but like it will leave you with like images in your head, and it's like haunting and good looking, well made movie. Nothing to get people to watch something like saying it's a well made movie. That's how you get. That's how you get people in seats. That's how you sell tickets.
It's really crafty. Good bones.
Yeah.
Good bones.
Competently made.
Yeah. That really gets people going, yeah. Well, thank you, Bridget, for, doing everything here.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Speaking
We'd love
of
to have
bones.
you on. Speaking of bones.
Speaking of bones.
You had to move them. You
His
had to move them
dinosaur
around
bones.
in order to record this.
I did, yeah.
Where can people move? What can people? Okay, wait. I'll get
Okay.
this. If people move their bones across a keyboard to find you, where would they go with
Yeah.
their bones?
Oh.
That's the great question.
Yep,
Totally
that's normal. Well, right here, exactly where you are, you can.
That's true.
You can find
That's true.
me.
So nothing.
Yeah. And podcasts I do with my friend and co-host Sarah Griffith. Check out Shooting Threes and Rough Stuff. You don't have to go that far. You just got to scroll down a little bit. And I'll occasionally say stuff on the internet, on Twitter at Bridget Tweets. So you can go there. And
Yeah.
Do those
That's
things.
me.
do those things.
Yeah. Thanks for having me,
Yeah.
you guys. It's always good talking to
All right,
you guys and
thank
movies
you.
and
I know.
Yeah.
I like you guys.
We're friends.
Yay!
It's real, guys.
Yep.
I do miss you. I do miss you both.
Yeah, it was good seeing you
The
guys. the other
friends
day.
is real.
Mhm.
Do you think the friends are really friends?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just-
I gotta go.
You got it. You should leave.
Yeah.
I got some shit to process
Yeah.
now.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!